Does eminent domain promote economic development, or does it rob people of their homes and property? Find out next on Outlook Monmouth. Welcome to Outlook Monmouth. I'm Armin McCumber, your host. Over the past 5 years, the issue of waterfront redevelopment in the city of Long Branch has pitted the city and developers against existing homeowners. Using the power of eminent domain, Long Branch has sought to transform a modest waterfront community into an affluent economic center. This project has stimulated tax revenue, economic development, and tourism for the city. Opponents of eminent domain argue the progress has come at a cost: the displacement of homeowners and the dismantling of communities. Recently, the city of Long Branch, developers, and homeowners struck an agreement to halt pending eminent domain actions. What lessons can be learned from the conflict, and what is the future for eminent domain in New Jersey? We are fortunate to have with us today representatives from both sides of the struggle. James Aaron serves as city attorney for the city of Long Branch. Mr. Aaron is the managing partner of the law firm of Ansell Zaro Grimm Aaron in Ocean, New Jersey. Christopher Healy is an associate with the law firm of Bathgate, Wegener Wolf in Lakewood, New Jersey. Together with Peter Wegener and Pamela Mada Snyder, Mr. Healy represents many of the homeowners who have been affected by waterfront redevelopment in the city of Long Branch. Gentlemen, welcome to Outlook Monmouth. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mr. Aaron, maybe I'll start with you. For people that don't know what eminent domain is, maybe you could just provide a general explanation of what it is and the process by which a city goes through to use it.
Armin, if I gave you the long answer, it would be out of time, so I'll try and keep it very short.
Okay.
The concept of eminent domain is the paying to the property owner fair market value for the acquisition of that person's property for a public purpose. And therein lies the rub in this case: what is a public purpose? The process, as you've asked me about for the city of Long Branch, required that the city, as a governmental agency, first asked the planning board to do a study of an area that it deemed to be potentially able to be declared an area in need of redevelopment. That area included general areas, beachfront north, beachfront south. When the planning board, the matter is then referred to the planning board conducts its studies. Not only does it studies, but it brings in consultants who discuss the requirements of the statute with the planning board, and the planning board makes findings, sends them back to and recommendations, sends them back to the governing body, and the governing body accepts or rejects them, and then an area is declared in need of redevelopment through that process.
I think when most people think of eminent domain, they think of a public purpose. They think of a city taking some land, making a park out of it for a road. In this case, and I think the area we're talking about for most people is the area around Pier Village, on the ocean in Long Branch and those areas. Can a public purpose be a redevelopment for private development, for a mall, or for this kind of a use?
The redevelopment statute itself, in its preamble, states that if an area qualifies for as an area in need of redevelopment, it is a public purpose. So the statute answers the question, but it doesn't necessarily tell you whether or not the municipality has met that burden of showing that the properties are in an area that is in need of redevelopment.
Well, let me ask that question then, and Mr. Healy, maybe you can chime in here, but what's the standard? How do we define what an area for redevelopment is, what blight is?
Well, the definition of what blight is up for debate right now. The city had made a determination in this case as to what blight was based on the criteria in the statute. The courts ultimately determined that they didn't do enough, and that there needed to be a more detailed hearing to determine whether or not this area was in fact blighted.
But in general, though, I mean, when we define an area of redevelopment or a blight, I mean, I think we know it when we see it. We certainly know the area around Pier Village was an area that needed redevelopment. There were derelict structures. It was in disrepair. But beyond that, unless something is completely vacant or something is run down, I mean, how do we define blight? Because it sort of gets to the core of the matter, and we'll get into how the courts dealt with it at some point. But is there a definition of blight? Is there a definition of what defines an area redevelopment, or is it something that's subjective on a case-by-case basis?
Well, I can answer the question
Sure.
from the city's perspective, and I think from any municipality's perspective. The statute sets forth 5 different categories that must be analyzed in order to find an area in need of redevelopment. The former blight statute was exactly the same. The language never changed. Those criteria go from the dilapidation of buildings being unsanitary, unsafe, the configuration of buildings being such that people cannot traverse the area appropriately. It goes to the conditions that exist in the area. In Long Branch, you had a burned-out pier. You had a rat-infested water slide. You had areas that were right around the area in question that had a landfill on it. You had houses that were crack houses.
There was a landfill?
There was a landfill directly south of, and properties directly south of the Matosa area, which is part of this discussion.
Was it a legal landfill?
It was a pre-existing landfill long before ordinance were ever in existence. That is now a townhouse, and part of the original contractors and developers project. That was phase 1 of the project. You have other indicia of physical attributes of a municipality where you see vacancies of properties get larger and larger and larger. Instead of developing, they become worse, and abandoned properties, abandoned businesses. These are all the things that a planning board looks at, and that's what was done for an entire area in 1995 and 1996 in the city of Long Branch.
And the origins of eminent domain, or of this redevelopment process around the Pier Village area. I mean, the city undertook this in 1996. This is when that started?
The process started in 1994 when the city was approached by a group, non-political, Long Branch Tomorrow. It was made up of citizens and organizations. The Monmouth Medical Center, Brookdale College, Monmouth University had representation. The utilities of the JCP&L, New Jersey Natural Gas, the Chamber of Commerce. These people got together in a citizens group, put together a fund to hire consultants, and urged the city to go forward to redevelop the city. This is not the first time that had happened. That effort started in the 80s, and the hotel on the oceanfront was built as a result of a prior redevelopment project. That group wanted an expanded study, and that was eventually recommended to the planning board.
Okay, and the planning board adopted that study?
No, it adopted it in part. It knocked out part of the study area, found it not within the requirements of the statute. And that was an area directly south of the presently existing redevelopment area.
Okay. And Mr. Healy, you represent homeowners.
That's right.
And where are these homeowners in relation to, and again, I think most people know where Pier Village is in Long Branch. They know where Beachfront North is, where all the townhomes and the development. Where are your clients? Where are they located?
The clients that we represent are in the Matosa area of Long Branch, which is...
What does that stand for?
It stands for Marine Terrace, Ocean Terrace, Seaview Avenue. Those are the 3 streets that contain the properties of the clients that we represent. It's just north of the condominiums that are there now, and just south of where 7 Presidents and the Lighthouse ice cream.
Well, I know where that is. Italian Ice, actually,
yes.
which is very good. How many homeowners are we talking about?
I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 36 homeowners that we were representing in this.